I stood alone in the glow of Christmas lights, watching my family pass gifts wrapped in shiny red paper, their laughter filling the room like a song I wasn't part of. The tree sparkled, heavy with ornaments I'd helped hang, but under it, there was nothing for me. Not a single box, not a card with my name. My daughter-in-law, Karen, leaned back on the couch, her wine glass catching the firelight as she smirked. "You deserve what you've got, Susan," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. Her words sharp like a knife through the holiday cheer. My son John sat beside her, eyes fixed on the floor, silent as ever. That silence cut deeper than her words. I looked around the living room, the one I'd helped them afford when I sold my late husband's shop to cover their debts. The stockings hung neatly above the fireplace, each labeled, John, Karen, their kids, even their cat, Muffin. But none for me. I'd spent years giving them everything, money, time, my heart, and now I was invisible in their perfect world. My hands shook as I pulled my scarf tighter. "I think I'll go," I said softly, my voice barely above a whisper. Nobody moved. Karen raised her glass, a mock toast. "Drive safe, Susan. The roads are slick tonight." I didn't answer. I picked up the tray of cookies I'd baked, untouched on the coffee table, and walked to the door. The snow fell heavy outside, sticking to my coat as I stepped into the cold. My breath fogged in the air, but it wasn't the chill that made my chest burn. It was the truth settling in, sharp and clear. They didn't want me here. Not tonight, not ever. I got into my old sedan, the engine coughing before it started, and drove through the quiet streets. No radio, no phone calls, just the sound of snow crunching under the tires and Karen's words looping in my head. "You deserve what you've got." What did I deserve? Years of babysitting their kids so they could go on date nights? Handing over my savings so they could keep this house? I gripped the wheel tighter, my knuckles pale. When I got to my small apartment, I didn't cry. I set the cookies on the counter, hung my coat, and sat by the window, watching the snow pile up. The streetlights cast shadows, and for the first time, I felt something shift inside me. Not sadness, not anger, but a quiet resolve. I wasn't going to be their afterthought anymore. I pulled out an old photo from a drawer, one of me and my husband, Tom, smiling at a park years ago. His handwriting was on the back. "Susan, you're stronger than you know." I stared at it, my fingers tracing his words. I'd forgotten that strength, buried it under years of giving too much. But tonight something woke up. I didn't sleep much. My mind kept replaying the night. Karen's smirk, John's silence, the empty space under the tree. By morning, I was tired but clear. I wasn't going back to their house, not for Christmas, not for anything. I made coffee, the kind Tom used to like, and sat at my small kitchen table. The photo was still out, his words staring back at me. I didn't know what I'd do next, but I knew I was done being invisible. I opened my phone and saw a text from my friend Betty, sent late last night. "You okay, Susan? You left quick." I didn't reply right away. Instead, I walked to my closet and pulled out a box of old letters and photos, things I'd kept from when Tom was alive. There was a bank statement in there, one I hadn't looked at in years. Something about it caught my eye. My name wasn't the only one listed anymore. John's was there too, added 2 years ago when he'd said it was just for emergencies. My stomach twisted. I didn't understand it then, but I knew it wasn't right. I called Betty. "Can you meet me at the diner? I need to talk." Her voice was warm, steady. "I'll be there in 20. I grabbed the statement, tucked it into my purse, and headed out, the snow still falling softer now. At the diner, Betty slid into the booth across from me, her gray hair tucked under a knit hat. "What happened last night?" she asked, her eyes searching mine. I told her everything. The gifts, Karen's words, John's silence. Then I showed her the statement. I signed something for John, but I didn't know it gave him control like this. Betty's face tightened. "Susan, you need to see someone about this. My cousin's a lawyer. She'll know what to do." I nodded, my heart racing. I hadn't planned to fight back, not yet, but the idea felt right, like a door opening. I spent the rest of the day going through more papers, finding more things I hadn't noticed. Bills in my name, accounts I didn't control. Each one was a small shock, a piece of a puzzle I hadn't seen. By evening, I was exhausted but awake in a way I hadn't been in years. I wrote one line in an old notebook, This isn't over. And it wasn't. I didn't know what John and Karen had done. Not fully, but I was going to find out. The snow kept falling outside, and I felt a spark of something new. Maybe anger, maybe hope, but definitely mine. The diner's coffee smell mixed with the cold air as I sat with Betty. The bank statement crumpled in my hand. My heart was still racing from what I'd found. John's name on my account, added without me really understanding. Betty sipped her tea, her eyes steady on me. "Susan, this isn't just a mistake," she said, her voice low. "You need to talk to my cousin, Diane. She's a lawyer, and she's tough. She'll figure out what John's done." I nodded, but my stomach twisted. John was my son, the boy I'd raised, the one I'd stayed up nights for when he was sick. How could he do this? I wanted to believe it was a mix-up, but Karen's words from Christmas, "You deserve what you've got," echoed in my head, sharp and cold. I left the diner with Diane's number and a heaviness I couldn't shake. Back at my apartment, I spread out more papers from the box, old bills, letters, anything that might explain what was happening. That's when I found it. A letter from the bank dated a year ago, saying my house, Tom's in my house, was now in John's name. My hands shook as I read it again. I'd signed something, sure, but John had said it was just to make things easier if I got sick. Easier for who? Not me. I sat on the floor, the letter in my lap, feeling like the ground had dropped out. That house was where Tom and I raised John, where we danced in the kitchen, where I planted roses that still bloomed every spring. And now it wasn't mine. I wanted to call John, to scream, to ask why, but I didn't. I just sat there, tears burning my eyes, until the phone rang. It was my granddaughter, Emily, her voice small. "Grandma, are you okay? Mom said you were mad at us." My throat tightened. "I'm not mad at you, honey," I said. "Just figuring some things out." She paused. "I miss you. Can I come over?" I said yes, even though I wasn't sure I could hide how shaken I was. When Emily arrived, her backpack slung over one shoulder, she hugged me tight. She was 16, all long legs and quiet eyes, and she looked at me like she knew something was wrong. "What's all this?" she asked, pointing to the papers. I didn't want to scare her, but I couldn't lie either. "Just some old stuff I'm sorting," I said, forcing a smile. She didn't push, but she stayed close, helping me stack the papers. That's when another twist hit. Emily picked up an envelope, one I hadn't seen, with my name on it. "This looks important," she said, handing it to me. Inside was a credit card statement, one I'd never applied for, with charges for vacations, fancy dinners, things I'd never bought. The balance was thousands, and it was in my name, tied to John's address. My heart sank. Not only had they taken my house, but they'd used my name to live a life I couldn't afford. I felt sick, betrayed, like everything I'd built with Tom was crumbling. Emily watched me, her face pale. "Grandma, is this bad?" I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm for her. "It's not good, but I'll fix it," I said, though I wasn't sure how. That night, after Emily fell asleep on my couch, I called Diane. Her voice was sharp, professional. "Bring everything you've got, Susan. Tomorrow 9 a.m. I barely slept, my mind spinning with questions. Had John planned this all along? Was Karen behind it? I kept seeing their faces at Christmas, so smug, so sure I'd never fight back. The next morning, I met Diane at her office, a small place with stacks of files and a coffee maker humming. She was younger than I expected, with quick eyes that seemed to see right through me. I showed her the bank statement, the house transfer, the credit card. She flipped through them, her jaw tightening. "This isn't just sloppy paperwork," she said. "This is fraud. They've been using your identity, Susan. And it's not an accident." Fraud. The word hit like a punch. My own son, stealing from me. I wanted to cry, but I didn't. I just sat there, gripping my purse. Diane leaned forward. "We can fight this. It'll take time, but we can get your house back, freeze those accounts, clear your name." I nodded, but my mind was on John. How had we gotten here? I remembered him as a kid, laughing in the backyard, promising he'd take care of me one day. Now he was taking everything instead. Diane gave me a list. Open a new bank account, freeze my credit, file a police report. Police? I asked, my voice shaking. She nodded. It's the only way to make it legal. I left her office feeling heavy but determined. I wasn't just fighting for my house or my money. I was fighting for me, for the woman I'd forgotten how to be. When I got home, Emily was awake, making toast in my tiny kitchen. She looked at me worried. "Did you fix it?" she asked. I shook my head. "Not yet, but I'm starting." She hugged me again, and for a moment, I felt stronger. But then my phone buzzed. It was a text from Karen. "Stop digging, Susan. You're only making it worse." My blood ran cold. How did she know I was looking into things? I showed Emily, and her eyes widened. "Mom's been checking your mail," she said quietly. "I saw her take some letters last month." Another twist, another betrayal. They weren't just using me. They were watching me, making sure I didn't catch on. I felt a surge of anger, but also fear. What else had they done? I locked the door that night, something I'd never done before, and sat by the window, the snow still falling outside. Emily slept on the couch, her breathing soft. I wrote in my notebook. "They think I'm weak, but they don't know I'm waking up." The next day, I went to the bank, Diane's list in hand. The teller, a kind woman named Lisa, helped me open a new account. One John couldn't touch. It felt like a small victory, but it wasn't enough. I needed answers. I drove to the library, where I knew John's old friend worked. Someone who might know something. His name was Mike, and he looked surprised to see me. "Susan, it's been a while," he said, smiling. I didn't smile back. "Mike, has John ever talked about my money?" His face changed like he'd been caught. "I don't know much," he said, "but he mentioned a loan he got, using some property." I thought he meant his house. My heart sank. My house wasn't just in his name, he'd borrowed against it. I thanked Mike and left, my hands shaking. Back home, I found another shock. A voicemail from the bank, saying my old account was overdrawn. Thousands gone, withdrawn by John just days ago. I sat on the floor, the phone in my hand, feeling like I'd been robbed all over again. But I didn't cry. I called Diane and told her everything. "We're filing that report today," she said. "They're not getting away with this." I looked at Emily, who was watching me, her eyes full of trust. I wasn't just doing this for me anymore. I was doing it for her, to show her what it meant to stand up. The snow outside kept falling, but inside, I felt a fire starting, one that wouldn't go out. I sat on my couch, the phone still in my hand, the bank's voicemail about the overdrawn account echoing in my mind. Emily looked at me, her eyes wide with worry. "Grandma, what did they say?" she asked, her voice soft but shaky. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice steady. "They said the account's empty, Emily. Your dad took it all out." Her face crumpled, and she hugged her knees. "Why would he do that? You're his mom." I didn't have an answer, just a heavy ache in my chest. I wanted to protect her, but the truth was spilling out, messy and raw. "I don't know, honey," I said, reaching for her hand. "But I'm going to find out." The snow outside my window was slowing, but inside, my world felt like a storm. I called Diane, my fingers fumbling on the phone. "Susan, I'm glad you called," she said, her voice sharp but kind. "I looked at those papers you sent. It's worse than I thought. They didn't just take your house. They've been using your credit for years. There's a second mortgage, car loans, even a business account tied to your name." I felt like I'd been slapped. "A business account?" I asked, my voice breaking. "What business?" Diane paused, and I could hear her flipping papers. "Something called Bright Future Ventures. It's registered to John and Karen, but your name's on the loan they used to start it." My head spun. Bright Future Ventures? I'd never heard of it. I pictured John and Karen laughing at Christmas, their new car parked outside. The one I thought they'd bought with their own money. "What do I do now?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Diane's tone hardened. "We file the police report today, Susan. And we freeze everything, your credit, your accounts, all of it. Meet me at the station in an hour." I hung up, my hands shaking. Emily was watching me, her eyes wet. "Are you going to the police?" she asked. I nodded, swallowing hard. "I have to, Emily. They can't keep doing this." She grabbed my hand, squeezing tight. "I'm coming with you." I wanted to say no, to keep her out of this mess, but her face was set, like she was ready to fight too. We drove to the police station, the roads icy but clear. Inside it smelled like coffee and old paper. Diane was already there, talking to an officer named Tom, a gray-haired man with a kind face. I handed him the papers, bank statements, the house transfer, the credit card fraud. He read them slowly, his brow furrowing. "Mrs. Davis, this is serious," he said, looking up at me. "You're saying your son did this?" I felt my throat tighten. "Yes," I said, my voice cracking. "Him and his wife." Emily stood close, her shoulder brushing mine. Tom nodded, writing something down. "We'll start an investigation, but you need to know this could get messy. Family cases always are." Messy. That word stuck with me as we left the station. Diane walked us to the car. "You did the right thing, Susan," she said, her hand on my arm. "But be ready. They're not going to like this." I didn't know what that meant until I got home. My phone buzzed with a voicemail from John. His voice was cold, not like the boy I'd raised. "Mom, what are you doing? Karen told me you're snooping around. Stop it or you'll regret it." I froze, my heart pounding. Emily heard it too, her eyes wide. "He sounds mad," she whispered. I nodded, but I wasn't scared, not yet. I was angry. How dare he threaten me? I called Betty, needing her steady voice. John left a message. I told her, playing it for her over the phone. She was quiet for a moment, then said, "Susan, he's scared. They know you're onto them. You need to be careful." Careful? I didn't want to be careful. I wanted my life back. That afternoon, Emily and I went through more of the box, looking for anything else John and Karen might have hidden. That's when we found the tricky part, a letter from a lawyer, not Diane, but someone named Richard Lee. It was dated 3 years ago, saying I'd agreed to let John manage my estate, because I was unfit. Unfit? I'd never seen that letter. I'd never met Richard Lee. My hands shook as I showed it to Emily. "They made this up," I said, my voice loud with anger. "They lied about me." Emily's face went pale. "Mom told me once you were forgetting things, but I didn't believe her. You're sharper than she is." Her words warmed me, but they also hurt. Karen had been planning this for years, painting me as weak to cover their tracks. I called Diane again, my voice shaking with rage. "They faked a letter saying I'm unfit," I said, reading it to her. She didn't sound surprised. "That's fraud, Susan. And it's not the first time I've seen it. Send me a picture of that letter. We'll add it to the case." I did, my hands trembling as I snapped the photo. That night, I couldn't sit still. I paced my small apartment, Emily watching me from the couch. "Grandma, what if they come here?" she asked, her voice small. I stopped, looking at her. "They won't," I said, but I wasn't sure. I locked the door again, double-checking it. The next morning, another twist hit. A woman from church, Linda, called me. "Susan, I saw something online," she said, her voice nervous. "Karen posted a picture of you, saying you're not well, asking for prayers. Everyone's talking about it." My stomach dropped. I opened my laptop and found Karen's post, a blurry photo of me from Christmas, looking tired, with a caption. "Please pray for Susan. She's struggling and needs help." Comments poured in, people I knew from church, saying they'd pray for my confusion. I felt sick. They weren't just stealing my money. They were stealing my name, my reputation. I showed Emily and she gasped. "That's not true. She's lying to everyone." I nodded, my jaw tight. "She wants people to think I'm crazy so no one believes me." I called Diane, my voice shaking with anger. "Karen's posting lies about me online," I said. Diane's voice was calm but firm. "Save that post, Susan. It's evidence. They're trying to discredit you before we go to court." Court. The word felt heavy, real. I wasn't just fighting for my house or my money anymore. I was fighting for my truth. Emily hugged me, her arms tight. "I believe you, Grandma," she said. "I always will." Her words kept me going, but the fear was there too. Karen and John weren't just betraying me. They were playing a game, a tricky one, to keep me down. I wrote in my notebook that night. "They think they've won, but I'm not done." The snow outside had stopped, but the air was still cold. I felt that cold inside me, but also a spark, growing stronger. I wasn't the weak woman Karen thought I was. I was Susan, and I was fighting back. I sat at my kitchen table, staring at the laptop screen, Karen's post burning into me. Her words, "Please pray for Susan. She's struggling," felt like a slap, twisting my life into a lie for everyone to see. Emily was next to me, her hand on my arm, her face tight with anger. "Grandma, you're not confused," she said, her voice shaking. "They're the ones who were wrong." I squeezed her hand, grateful for her, but my heart ached. I'd spent years knitting sweaters for her, baking her birthday cakes, teaching her how to plant roses like I did with Tom. Now her parents were painting me as someone who couldn't think straight. I closed the laptop, my hands trembling. "I need some air," I said, standing up. Emily followed me to the porch, where the cold bit at my cheeks. The snow was gone, but the ground was still white, like it was holding on to winter. I looked at her, so young, so fierce. "You don't have to stay in this mess, Emily," I told her. "You can go home." She shook her head. "I'm not leaving you, Grandma. They're lying about you and I hate it." Her words wrapped around me like a warm blanket. But they also hurt. She shouldn't have to choose between me and her parents. I hugged her, feeling her small frame against mine, and for a moment, I was back to being the mom who could fix anything. But this wasn't a scraped knee or a bad grade. This was my son stealing my life. My phone rang, breaking the quiet. It was Betty, her voice urgent. "Susan, you need to check your email. The church group's talking about you and it's not good." My stomach dropped. I opened my email on my phone, Emily leaning close. There was a message from the church coordinator, Mary, someone I'd known for years. "Dear Susan," it read, "we're concerned about your health based on Karen's post. We're praying for you, but we think it's best if you step back from the choir for now." I felt like I'd been punched. The choir was my sanctuary, where I sang every Sunday, where I felt Tom's presence in the hymns. Now they were pushing me out. "They can't do this," Emily said, her voice loud. "You're not sick." I didn't answer. I just stared at the email, my chest tight. I called Mary, my fingers shaking as I dialed. "Mary, it's Susan," I said when she picked up. "What's this about the choir?" Her voice was soft, like she was trying to be kind. "Oh, Susan, we just want what's best. Karen said you've been forgetting things, and we can't have that in the group." I gripped the phone. "Karen's lying, Mary. I'm fine. I've been in that choir for 20 years. You know me." She paused, and I could hear her hesitation. "I'm sorry, Susan. The board already decided. Maybe take some time to rest." Rest? As if I was the one who needed fixing. I hung up, my eyes stinging. Emily grabbed my hand. "Grandma, they're wrong. You're the best singer there." I forced a smile, but inside I was breaking. First my house, my money, now my place in the church. What was next? I called Diane, my voice shaking. "They're kicking me out of the choir," I told her. "Karen's lies are spreading." Diane's voice was steady, like a lifeline. "Susan, this is defamation. Save that email. It's more evidence. I'm meeting with the police tomorrow to push the fraud case. Can you come?" I said yes, but my mind was spinning. That afternoon, I went to the bank again, this time to freeze my credit. The teller, Lisa, remembered me. "You're doing the right thing, Mrs. Davis," she said, her voice kind. "I've seen this before. Family can hurt the most." Her words hit me hard, but they also gave me strength. I wasn't alone in this. Back home, Emily was on her phone, scrolling fast. "Grandma, look at this," she said, her voice sharp. She showed me another post from Karen, this one worse. It was a picture of my old house, my roses in the background with a caption. "Helping Susan by taking care of her property. It's what family does." The comments were full of praise for her, calling her a saint. I felt sick. "She's using my house to look good," I said, my voice low. Emily nodded, her eyes fierce. "We need to tell people the truth." I wasn't sure how, but she was right. That evening, another twist came. My neighbor, Mrs. Carter, knocked on my door, her face worried. "Susan, I saw John at your old house today," she said. "He was with some man in a suit, talking about selling it." Selling it? My house, the one I'd lost, the one with Tom's roses. I thanked her, my voice tight, and closed the door. Emily overheard, her eyes wide. They can't sell your house, Grandma, she said. It's yours. I nodded, but my heart was racing. I called Diane, telling her what Mrs. Carter said. They're moving fast, Diane said. We need to file an injunction to stop any sale. Can you get me proof that house was yours? I went back to the box, my hands shaking as I dug through it. I found an old deed, my name and Tom's on it, dated before John's name was added. I sent it to Diane, my heart pounding. Good, she said. This helps. But Susan, be careful. They know you're fighting back. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept seeing my house, my roses, the life I'd built with Tom, slipping away. Emily stayed up with me, making tea, her small hands steady as she handed me a cup. Grandma, you're not giving up, right? She asked. I looked at her, her eyes so much like John's when he was young. No, honey, I said. I'm not giving up. But then my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Back off, Susan, or you'll lose more than your house. My blood ran cold. I showed Emily and she grabbed my hand. Who sent that? She whispered. I didn't know, but it felt like John or Karen, or maybe someone they'd hired to scare me. I locked the door again, checking it twice. The next morning, I went to the police station with Diane. Officer Tom was there, looking at the new evidence. This deed changes things, he said. We'll look into the house sale. But Susan, whoever sent that text meant business. Stay alert. I nodded, my throat tight. Back home, I found Emily writing in my notebook, her handwriting small and neat. What's this? I asked. She showed me. Grandma's stronger than they think. I hugged her, tears in my eyes. She was my reason to keep going. But then the phone rang again. It was John. Mom, why are you doing this? He said, his voice loud. You're tearing our family apart. I gripped the phone, my heart breaking but my anger stronger. You tore it apart, John, I said. You took everything. He went quiet, then hung up. I sat down, shaking, but Emily was there, her hand on my shoulder. I wrote in the notebook that night. They want me to stop, but I'm just starting. The fight wasn't just for my house or my money. It was for my life, my truth, my heart. I held the phone long after John hung up, his words. You're tearing our family apart. Cutting deeper than I wanted to admit. Emily sat beside me, her hand still on my shoulder, her eyes searching mine. Grandma, you okay? She asked, her voice soft. I nodded, but I wasn't. My heart felt like it was splitting, half angry, half broken. John was my son, the boy I'd carried, the one I'd read bedtime stories to. Now he was a stranger, stealing from me, threatening me. I looked at Emily, her face so young but so strong, and forced a small smile. I'm okay, honey, I said, though my voice shook. Just need to keep going. She hugged me, and for a moment, I felt anchored. But that threatening text, back off, Susan, or you'll lose more than your house, kept replaying in my mind. Who sent it? John? Karen? Someone else? I didn't sleep that night, my mind racing. The next morning, I made coffee, the smell reminding me of Tom, and sat at the kitchen table with my notebook. Emily was still asleep on the couch, her backpack by her feet. I wrote. They want me scared, but I'm not stopping. It felt like a promise, one I wasn't sure I could keep. My phone buzzed, startling me. It was Diane. Susan, we've got a problem, she said, her voice tight. The police traced that text. It came from a burner phone bought with cash. No name, but it was activated near John's house. My stomach twisted. So it was him? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Diane sighed. Maybe, or Karen. We can't prove it yet, but it's suspicious. Stay careful, okay? I hung up, my hands shaking. Emily woke up, rubbing her eyes. Who was that? She asked. I didn't want to scare her, but I couldn't lie. Diane, I said. That text came from near your parents' house. Her face went pale. They're trying to stop you, she said, her voice small but angry. I nodded, feeling a surge of protectiveness. They won't, I said, more to myself than her. That afternoon, I went to the library needing answers. Mike, John's old friend, was there, stacking books. I walked up, my heart pounding. Mike, I need to ask you something, I said. He looked nervous, glancing around. Susan, I told you what I know about the loan. I shook my head. Not that. Did John ever say anything about a business? Bright future ventures. Mike's eyes darted away, and I knew he was hiding something. He mentioned it once, he said, his voice low. Said it was a side thing, but he needed your house as collateral. I thought you knew. Collateral. My house, my roses, used like a bargaining chip. I felt sick. Thanks, Mike, I said, turning to leave. But he grabbed my arm, his voice urgent. Susan, don't tell him I said anything. He's not the same guy anymore. I nodded, my throat tight, and walked out, the library's quiet feeling heavy. Back home, another twist hit. Emily was on her phone, her face white. Grandma, look at this, she said, showing me an email from her school. It was addressed to me, saying I'd called to unenroll Emily, claiming I couldn't care for her anymore. I never did this, I said, my voice loud with shock. Emily grabbed my hand. I know, Grandma. It's them. They're trying to take me away. My heart raced. John and Karen weren't just after my money. They wanted Emily too, to control her, to keep her from me. I called Diane, my voice shaking. They're trying to pull Emily out of school. I told her, reading the email. Diane's voice was sharp. That's parental interference, Susan. We'll file a restraining order against them. Can Emily stay with you for now? I looked at Emily, who nodded, her eyes fierce. Yes, I said. She's staying. That evening, Betty came over, bringing a casserole. Susan, you look tired, she said, setting it on the counter. I told her about the email, the burner phone, Mike's words. Her face tightened. They're scared, Susan. You're getting too close to the truth. I nodded, but my chest felt heavy. Betty, what if I can't win this? I asked, my voice breaking. She grabbed my hands, her grip warm. You're not alone, Susan. You've got Emily, me, Diane. And you've got Tom's strength in you. Her words brought tears to my eyes, and I hugged her, grateful. But then my phone rang. It was Mary from church. Susan, I owe you an apology, she said, her voice shaky. I saw Karen talking to the board, pushing them to remove you. I didn't know she was lying. Can you come to the meeting tomorrow? We want you back in the choir. I was stunned, my heart lifting. Thank you, Mary, I said, my voice thick. I'll be there. Emily overheard, smiling for the first time all day. See, Grandma? People believe you. I smiled back, but the moment didn't last. Late that night, I found a letter slipped under my door. It was typed, no signature. Stop talking to the police or Emily pays. My blood ran cold. I locked the door, my hands shaking, and checked on Emily, who was asleep. I didn't wake her, but I sat by her, the letter in my hand. Who was doing this? John? Karen? Someone they'd paid? I called Diane, whispering so Emily wouldn't hear. Someone left a threat at my door, I said, reading it to her. Diane's voice was calm but firm. Susan, don't touch it. Put it in a bag. I'll send an officer tomorrow. You and Emily need to stay somewhere else tonight. I hung up, my heart pounding. I woke Emily gently. Honey, we're going to Betty's, I said. She didn't ask why, just grabbed her backpack. At Betty's, she gave us her guest room, her face worried. Susan, this is getting dangerous, she said. I nodded, but I wasn't backing down. The next morning, I went to the church meeting, Emily by my side. Mary hugged me, tears in her eyes. We were wrong, Susan, she said. You're staying in the choir. The board nodded, and for the first time in days I felt seen. But as we left, I saw Karen's car parked across the street, her face in the window, watching me. My stomach twisted. I didn't tell Emily, but I gripped her hand tighter. Back at Betty's, an officer came for the letter. We'll test it for prints, he said. Diane called after, her voice urgent. Susan, we found something. That business, Bright Future Ventures? It's failing. They're in debt, and they're using your assets to cover it. Another twist. My house, my money, all to save their sinking ship. I felt a surge of anger. Can we stop them? I asked. Diane's voice was steady. We're trying, Susan. But they're desperate now. Stay with Betty until we know more. I hung up looking at Emily, who was drawing in my notebook. She'd written, Grandma's not scared. I wanted to believe it, but I was. Still, I wrote beneath her words. They can't break me. The fight was getting harder, but I was getting stronger. I sat on Betty's couch, the morning light filtering through her lace curtains, my notebook open in my lap. Emily's words, Grandma's not scared, stared back at me, and below them mine. They can't break me. But my hands shook as I held my coffee mug, the warmth doing little to ease the chill inside me. Seeing Karen's car outside the church yesterday, her eyes locked on me, felt like a warning I couldn't ignore. Emily was still asleep in the guest room. Her soft snores a reminder of why I was fighting. I wasn't just saving myself. I was showing her what it meant to stand up. Betty walked in, her slippers shuffling. "Susan, you didn't sleep, did you?" she asked, her voice gentle. I shook my head, my eyes stinging. "I keep thinking about that letter, Betty. Emily pays. What kind of person threatens a kid?" Betty sat beside me, her hand on mine. "They're desperate, Susan. You're stronger than they expected." I wanted to believe her, but the fear was heavy, like a stone in my chest. My phone buzzed and I flinched. It was Diane. "Susan, good news," she said, her voice brighter than usual. "The police found prints on that letter. They're running them now, but they also tracked the burner phone purchase to a store near John's house. Security footage shows Karen buying it." My heart skipped. "Karen?" I asked, my voice shaky. Diane's tone hardened. "Yes. We're building a case, but you need to stay safe. Can you and Emily stay with Betty a bit longer?" I said yes, glancing at Betty, who nodded. After I hung up, Emily wandered in, her hair messy. "Was that the lawyer?" she asked, sitting close. I nodded, hesitating. I didn't want to scare her, but she deserved the truth. "They think your mom sent that text," I said softly. Emily's face fell, and she looked away. I knew she was mad, but this? Her voice cracked, and I pulled her into a hug, feeling her tremble. "It's not your fault, honey," I said, my own tears falling. "None of this is." She nodded against my shoulder, but I could feel her hurt, sharp and deep. That afternoon, I got another call, this time from Lisa at the bank. "Mrs. Davis, I found something odd," she said, her voice low. "Someone tried to access your new account last night. They had your old ID details, but we blocked it." My stomach dropped. "Who was it?" I asked. Lisa paused. "They used John's name, but we can't confirm it was him. Be careful, okay?" I thanked her, my heart racing. John or Karen, still trying to take what little I had left. I told Betty, who frowned. "Susan, they're not stopping. You need to talk to someone else who knows them." I thought of Mike at the library. He'd been cagey, but he knew more. I drove there alone, leaving Emily with Betty. Mike was shelving books, his face tightening when he saw me. "Susan, you're back," he said, glancing around. I didn't waste time. "Mike, what else do you know about John's business?" I asked, my voice firm. He sighed, leaning against a shelf. "It's failing bad, Susan. He borrowed more than your house was worth, and now they're in debt to some rough people. I heard him on the phone last week, talking about selling everything to pay it off." My blood ran cold. "Everything?" I asked. He nodded. "Your house, maybe more." I left the library, my hands shaking. They weren't just stealing, they were desperate, cornered. Back at Betty's, I told her and Emily everything. Emily's eyes widened. "They're going to lose everything, aren't they?" she asked. I nodded, my throat tight. "But they're trying to take me down with them." That evening, another twist hit. My old friend Carol from church called, her voice nervous. "Susan, I found something in the church office," she said. "A letter from John, asking the board to declare you unfit for the choir. He said you were a risk to the group." My heart sank. John, not just Karen, was behind the lies. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" I asked, my voice shaking. Carol's voice broke. "I didn't know it was a lie, Susan. I'm so sorry." I forgave her, but the betrayal stung. My own son calling me a risk. I showed Diane the letter, emailing her a photo. "This is gold," she said. "It proves John's part in the defamation. We're adding it to the case." I felt a spark of hope, but it didn't last. That night, Emily found a new post online, this time from John. It was a picture of me and Tom from years ago, one I'd given him with a caption. Missing the old days when Mom was herself. Pray for her recovery. Comments poured in, people saying they'd pray for my mental health. I felt sick, my hands trembling as I showed Betty. They're using Tom against me, I said, my voice breaking. Betty hugged me. They're scared, Susan. You're fighting back, and they don't know how to stop you. Emily grabbed my hand. Grandma, we need to tell everyone the truth. Post something back. I shook my head. I don't know how, I said, feeling old, tired. But Emily's eyes were fierce. I'll help you, she said. We sat at Betty's table, and Emily typed a post for me. I'm Susan Davis, and I'm not confused. My family's lying to take my home and money. I'm fighting for the truth. My heart pounded as she hit send. Within minutes, people from church commented, shocked, supportive. Carol wrote, "We're with you, Susan." But then my phone buzzed with a call from John. "Mom, take that post down," he yelled. "You're embarrassing us." I gripped the phone, my voice steady for the first time. "No, John. You're embarrassing yourself." He went quiet, then hung up. Emily hugged me, smiling. "You did it, Grandma." I smiled back, but my heart was heavy. The next morning, another twist came. Diane called. "Susan, the police found something in John's business records. He's been forging your signature on loans for years, not just the house. There's a meeting with the bank tomorrow. Can you come?" I said yes, my mind spinning. Forging my signature? How long had this been going on? I looked at Emily, who was drawing in my notebook again. She'd written, "Grandma's winning." I wanted to believe her, but the fear was still there. That afternoon, I got a text from an unknown number. "You're making a mistake, Susan. Think about Emily." My heart stopped. I showed Betty, who called Diane right away. "We're getting you a security system," Betty said, her voice firm. I nodded, holding Emily close. I wrote in my notebook that night. "They're trying to scare me, but I'm not alone." The fight was bigger now, and I was ready, even if my heart was breaking. I held Emily close, the threatening text, "Think about Emily," burning in my mind as we sat in Betty's guest room. My heart pounded, not just with fear but with a fierce need to protect her. She was all I had left that felt like family, and they were trying to take her too. Betty stood at the door, her face tight with worry. "Susan, you don't have to face this alone," she said, her voice soft but firm. "We'll get that security system today." I nodded, my throat too tight to speak. Emily looked up at me, her eyes big but steady. "Grandma, they're just trying to scare you," she said, her voice small. "You're stronger than them." Her words hit me hard, like a spark in the dark. I hugged her tighter, feeling her warmth, and whispered, "We're stronger together, honey." But inside I was shaking. How had it come to this? My own son, my own flesh, threatening his daughter to keep me quiet. I wrote in my notebook, "They want me to break, but I'm holding on for her." The morning was gray, the air heavy with the promise of more snow. Diane called as I made tea, her voice urgent. "Susan, the bank meeting's in an hour. We've got proof of the forged signatures, and the police are coming too. Bring any other documents you have." I gathered everything, the deed, the credit card statements, the fake unfit letter, and tucked them into my purse. Emily insisted on coming. "I'm not staying behind," she said, her jaw set. I didn't argue. She deserved to see me fight. At the bank, Lisa greeted us, her smile kind but strained. "Mrs. Davis, this is Mr. Thompson, our fraud specialist," she said, introducing a tall man with glasses. He shook my hand, his grip firm. "We've reviewed your case, Susan," he said. "The signatures on those loans don't match yours. We're freezing all accounts tied to your name until this is resolved." I felt a rush of relief, but it didn't last. Mr. Thompson leaned forward. "There's something else. Someone tried to withdraw money from your old account again last night, using your social security number." My stomach dropped. "Who?" I asked, my voice shaking. He shook his head. "We don't know yet, but the police are tracing it." Diane, sitting beside me, squeezed my arm. "This is good, Susan. They're slipping up." But I didn't feel good. I felt exposed, like John and Karen were everywhere, watching. Emily grabbed my hand under the table, her fingers small but strong. They can't touch us now, right? She whispered. I forced a smile. Not if we keep fighting, I said, but my heart wasn't sure. After the meeting, Diane pulled me aside. Susan, there's more, she said, her voice low. The police found emails between John and that lawyer, Richard Lee. They planned the unfit letter to make you look unstable, so no one would believe you about the fraud. My chest tightened. John did that? I asked, my voice barely audible. Diane nodded. He's in deep, Susan. But we've got him now. I wanted to cry, to scream. But I just nodded, clutching Emily's hand as we left. Back at Betty's, another twist hit. My phone buzzed with a voicemail from an unknown number. I played it, my hands trembling. A man's voice, rough and low, said, Susan, you're digging too deep. Drop the case, or we'll come for you. Emily heard it, her eyes wide. Grandma, who was that? She asked, her voice shaking. I didn't know, but it wasn't John or Karen. This was someone else, someone they'd pulled into their mess. I called Diane, my voice unsteady. Another threat, I said, playing the voicemail for her. She was quiet for a moment, then said, Susan, this is bigger than we thought. I'm getting you police protection. Stay with Betty, and don't open the door for anyone. I hung up, my heart racing. Emily hugged me, her arms tight. I'm scared, Grandma, she admitted, her voice muffled. I held her, tears in my eyes. I'm scared too, honey, I said. But we're not alone. Betty overheard, her face pale. Susan, you need to tell the church what's happening, she said. People trust you. They'll help. I wasn't sure, but I agreed. That evening, I went to the church, Emily by my side. Mary met us at the door, her eyes warm. Susan, we're all behind you, she said. I stood in front of the choir group, my hands shaking. I need to tell you something. I started, my voice low. John and Karen have been lying about me. They took my house, my money, and now they're threatening Emily. The room went quiet, then Carol stood up. We believe you, Susan, she said, her voice firm. Others nodded, some with tears in their eyes. What can we do? Mary asked. I swallowed hard. Just pray for us, I said. And spread the truth. That night, I got a call from Carol. Susan, people are talking, she said. They're sharing your post online, calling out John and Karen. It's going viral. I checked my phone, stunned. Hundreds of comments, people from church, neighbors, even strangers, saying they supported me, calling John and Karen out. My heart lifted, but then another twist came. Emily screamed from the guest room. I ran in, finding her staring at her phone. Grandma, look, she said, showing me a new post from Karen. It was a video of me years ago, stumbling at a family picnic, with a caption. Susan's been struggling for years. We're just trying to help. The comments were brutal, calling me frail, confused. I felt like I'd been punched. That's not me now, I said, my voice shaking. Emily hugged me. We'll show them, Grandma, she said, her voice fierce. I nodded, but the hurt was deep. They were using my past against me, twisting memories to make me look weak. I called Diane, my voice trembling. Karen posted a video, I said. It's bad. Diane's voice was calm. Save it, Susan. It's more evidence. They're desperate, and it shows. I sat with Emily, my notebook open. She'd written, Grandma's the strongest person I know. I added, they're fighting dirty, but I'm fighting smarter. The next morning, Diane called with another twist. Susan, the police found the man from the voicemail, she said. He's a loan shark John owes money to. They're pressuring John to pay up, and he's using your assets to do it. My heart sank. My son wasn't just a thief. He was trapped, dragging me down with him. I looked at Emily, her face set with determination. We're stopping them, right? She asked. I nodded, my resolve hardening. Yes, honey. We are. I wrote in my notebook. They're cornered, but so am I. And I'm not backing down. The fight was getting uglier, but I felt alive, ready to take back what was mine. I sat at Betty's kitchen table, my notebook open, Emily's words. Grandma's the strongest person I know, giving me a flicker of strength. But my heart was heavy. The loan shark's threat and Karen's video twisting in my mind like a storm. John wasn't just stealing my house. He was tied to dangerous people, and I was caught in the middle. Emily was coloring in her sketchbook, her pencil scratching softly, but her eyes kept darting to me. "Grandma, you're going to win, right?" she asked, her voice small but hopeful. I forced a smile, my chest tight. "I'm trying, honey," I said, reaching for her hand. Her fingers felt so small, and I hated that she was scared because of me. Betty walked in, carrying a tray of tea. "Susan, you've got more people behind you now," she said, setting it down. "That post Emily wrote is everywhere. People are angry for you." I checked my phone, and she was right. Hundreds of messages from church friends, neighbors, even my old coworker Jane, saying they believed me, offering help. It warmed me, but the fear was still there, sharp and cold. My phone buzzed again, and I flinched. It was Diane. "Susan, big update," she said, her voice sharp. "The police arrested the loan shark. He's talking, saying John promised him your house to settle the debt. We're close to getting an injunction to stop the sale." My heart leaped, but then she added, "But John's disappeared. No one's seen him since yesterday." I froze. "Disappeared?" I asked, my voice shaking. Diane's tone softened. "Yeah. Karen's still at the house, but John's gone. Stay with Betty, okay? The police are watching." I hung up, my mind spinning. John gone? Was he running, or was he in trouble? I looked at Emily, who was watching me. "What's wrong, Grandma?" she asked. I didn't want to scare her, but I couldn't lie. "Your dad's missing," I said softly. Her eyes widened, and she hugged me tight. "Is it because of us?" she whispered. I shook my head, holding her close. "No, honey. It's because of what he did." But my heart ached. He was still my son, no matter what he'd done. That afternoon, another twist hit. Carol from church showed up at Betty's, her face pale. "Susan, I found something in the church records," she said, handing me a paper. It was a donation receipt, signed by me, for $10,000 to the church last year. "I never gave this," I said, my voice loud with shock. Carol nodded. "I know. I checked. The money came from your account, but John signed it." My stomach twisted. They'd used my money to look generous, to win over the church while painting me as unstable. I called Diane, my hands shaking. "John faked a donation in my name," I told her, sending her a picture of the receipt. Diane's voice was firm. "This is fraud, Susan. It's another nail in their case." I felt a spark of hope, but it was drowned by a new fear. What else had they done in my name? That evening, Emily and I went through my box of papers again, looking for more clues. She found a letter from a real estate company, addressed to me, saying my house was scheduled for an open house next week. "Grandma, they're really selling it," she said, her voice breaking. I took the letter, my heart pounding. My roses, Tom's memory, everything I'd built, gone if I didn't stop them. I called Diane, who said, "We'll file the injunction tomorrow, Susan. Hold tight." But holding tight was hard. That night, I got a call from an old neighbor, Mr. Harris. "Susan, I saw Karen at your house today," he said, his voice low. "She was packing boxes, talking to a realtor. She looked nervous." I thanked him, my throat tight. Karen was moving fast, maybe because John was gone. I told Emily, who grabbed my hand. "We can't let her win, Grandma," she said, her eyes fierce. I nodded, feeling her strength fuel mine. The next morning, another twist came. A police officer, Tom, knocked on Betty's door. "Mrs. Davis, we found John," he said, his face serious. "He was at a motel, trying to sell your car online." "My car?" "The one Tom and I bought together, the one I'd left at their house." "Is he okay?" I asked, my voice shaking. Tom nodded. "He's in custody now. He's talking, blaming Karen for everything." I felt a mix of relief and pain. John caught, but turning on his wife. Was he telling the truth, or was this another trick? I looked at Emily, who was listening, her face pale. "What happens now?" she asked. I didn't know, but I hugged her, feeling her heart beat against mine. That afternoon, I went to the police station with Diane. John was there, behind glass, looking small, tired. "Mom, I'm sorry," he said when he saw me, his voice breaking. "Karen pushed me into it. I didn't want to hurt you. I wanted to believe him, but the lies were too deep." "You took everything, John," I said, tears in my eyes. "My house, my money, even Emily." He looked away, ashamed. Diane touched my arm. Susan, he's helping the police now. It's a start. But it didn't feel like enough. Back at Betty's, Emily was waiting, her sketchbook open. She'd drawn me, standing tall, roses around me. "This is you, Grandma," she said, smiling. "Strong." I hugged her, tears falling. "You make me strong," I said. That night, my phone buzzed with a text from Karen. "You turned him against me, Susan. You'll pay." My heart stopped. I showed Diane, who said, "She's desperate now. We're close to winning." I wrote in my notebook, "They're falling apart, but I'm holding together." The church community was rallying, my posts spreading, people calling Karen out. But Karen's text scared me. I checked the locks, held Emily close, and prayed. The fight was close to ending, but it wasn't over yet. I sat in Betty's living room, Karen's text, "You'll pay," burning in my mind like a warning I couldn't shake. Emily was curled up next to me, her sketchbook open, her drawing of me with roses giving me a spark of strength. But my heart was racing. John was in custody, blaming Karen, and she was alone now, desperate. I checked the locks again, my hands trembling, and held Emily closer. "Grandma, we're okay, right?" she asked, her voice small. I nodded, forcing a smile. "We're okay, honey," I said, but the fear was heavy, like a shadow over us. Betty walked in, her face tight. "Susan, you need to rest," she said, setting a cup of tea down. "You're carrying too much." I shook my head, my voice shaky. "I can't rest, Betty. Not with Karen out there, planning something." My phone buzzed and I jumped. It was Diane. "Susan, we've got a court date tomorrow," she said, her voice sharp. "The injunction to stop the house sale is ready, and John's testimony is helping. But there's something new. The police found a hidden account in your name, tied to bright future ventures. It's got $50,000, and Karen tried to transfer it out yesterday." My stomach dropped. "Another account?" I asked, my voice breaking. Diane's tone was firm. "Yes, and it's fraud. We're adding it to the case. Be at the courthouse at 8 a.m. I hung up, my head spinning. Karen was still moving money, still using my name. I told Emily, who grabbed my hand. "She's not stopping, is she?" she said, her eyes wide. I shook my head, feeling a mix of anger and exhaustion. "No, but neither are we," I said, squeezing her hand. That morning, another twist hit. My old friend Jane from work called, her voice nervous. "Susan, I saw Karen at the bank yesterday," she said. "She was arguing with someone, saying she needed money fast to get out of town." My heart raced. Karen planning to run? I thanked Jane and called Diane, who said, "That fits. The police think she's planning to leave before the court date. They're watching her." I felt a chill. Karen wasn't just fighting, she was fleeing. But then came another shock. Emily was on her phone, her face pale. "Grandma, look at this," she said, showing me a new post from Karen. It was a photo of Emily, taken at school with a caption, "My daughter's been misled by Susan. I'm fighting to bring her home." My blood ran cold. Karen was using Emily now, twisting the truth to make me the villain. "She can't do this," Emily said, tears in her eyes. I hugged her, my heart breaking. "She won't take you, honey," I said, my voice firm. "I promise." But the promise felt heavy, like I was carrying more than I could hold. I called Diane, my voice shaking. "Karen's posting about Emily," I said, sending her the post. Diane's voice was sharp. "This is harassment, Susan. We're filing for a restraining order today." I nodded, but my mind was on Emily, who was shaking next to me. "Grandma, what if Mom comes here?" she asked. I held her close. "She won't get near you," I said, but I wasn't sure. That afternoon, the twists kept coming. Betty's neighbor, Tom, knocked on the door, his face worried. "Susan, someone was outside your apartment last night," he said. "I saw a car idling, and it looked like Karen's." My stomach twisted. Karen watching my place, maybe planning something worse. I thanked Tom and called Diane, who said, "We're sending an officer to patrol Betty's street tonight. Stay put." I nodded, but the fear was growing. That evening, I went to the church to clear my head. Mary met me at the door, her eyes kind. "Susan, we're praying for you," she said, hugging me. I joined the choir for practice, my voice shaky but steadying as we sang. For a moment, I felt like myself again, like the woman Tom loved. But when I left, I saw Karen's car across the street again, her silhouette inside. My heart stopped. I didn't tell Mary, but I hurried back to Betty's, my hands shaking as I drove. Emily was waiting, her face lighting up when she saw me. "You're back," she said, hugging me. I held her tight, not telling her about Karen. But then my phone rang. It was an unknown number. I answered, my voice cautious. "Susan, you're making this hard," a woman's voice said. "Karen. Give me Emily and I'll stop." My blood boiled. "You're not getting her," I said, my voice loud. "You've taken enough." She laughed, cold and sharp. "You think you're winning? You'll see." She hung up, and I stood there, shaking. Emily looked at me, scared. "Was that Mom?" she asked. I nodded, my throat tight. "She's not giving up," I said. "But neither are we." Betty overheard, her face pale. "Susan, you need to tell the police," she said. I called Diane, who said, "That's a direct threat. We're adding it to the restraining order." That night, another twist came. Emily found an email on my laptop, sent to me but from an account I didn't know. It was a fake will, supposedly mine, leaving everything to John and Karen. "This isn't real, is it?" Emily asked, her voice shaking. I shook my head, my heart pounding. "No, honey. They're trying to trick everyone." I sent it to Diane, who said, "This is fraud, Susan. It's more evidence." I wrote in my notebook, "They're throwing everything at me, but I'm still here." The next morning, I got a call from Officer Tom. "Susan, we caught Karen trying to board a bus out of town," he said. "She had a bag of cash, and your name was on the account it came from." My heart leaped. Karen caught. But then he added, "She's saying you gave her the money willingly." Another lie, another twist. I looked at Emily, who was drawing again, her pencil steady. "Grandma, we're close, right?" she asked. I nodded, my resolve hardening. "Yes, honey. We're close." I wrote in my notebook, "They're running out of lies and I'm running out of fear." The court date was tomorrow, and I was ready, no matter what Karen threw at me next. I barely slept that night. I watched Emily as she drifted off beside me, her soft breathing the only thing calming my racing heart. The house was quiet, but the silence didn't bring peace. I kept replaying everything. Karen's voice on the phone, the fake will, the money transfers, the lies. It felt like she had tried to erase who I was and replace it with her version. All to gain control. But the truth was about to speak louder. By morning, the sky was overcast, gray clouds sitting low like the weight on my shoulders. I dressed carefully, my hands steady for the first time in days. Emily stood beside me in her church shoes, and the sweater she'd knitted last winter. "You ready, Grandma?" she asked. I looked in the mirror, seeing someone stronger than before. "I am now," I said. Betty drove us to the courthouse. She kept one hand on the wheel, and the other near mine. "No matter what happens," she said, "you've already won. You protected Emily. You didn't back down." I squeezed her hand gently. At the courthouse steps, Diane met us, her arms full of files. "Karen's legal team is scrambling," she said, walking briskly. "The fraud, the will, the harassment, it's all added up. Today's about showing the court what we already know." Inside the courtroom, Karen sat with her arms crossed, her eyes darting nervously. She looked tired, deflated. Not the confident manipulator I'd once feared. Her lawyer whispered something, but she didn't respond. I kept my eyes on Emily, who sat behind me, next to Betty. She gave me a thumbs up, and my heart swelled. When it was my turn to speak, I stood tall. I told the judge about the stolen money, the threats, the fake accounts, the years of gaslighting and control. I didn't cry. I didn't raise my voice. I just told the truth. Every word felt like pulling a thorn from old wounds. Then Diane presented the evidence. Karen's social media post about Emily, the fake will, the hidden account, the call recording, and finally the police report of her trying to flee. The judge listened quietly, expression unreadable. Karen's team tried to twist things, saying I'd given her money, that she was Emily's rightful parent, that she was only trying to fix her life. But none of it stuck. Her lies had tangled too tightly, and the truth was finally breaking through. After hours of back and forth, the judge leaned forward. The evidence of fraud, manipulation, and endangerment is overwhelming. The temporary injunction is now permanent. The property sale is blocked, and custody remains with Susan Blackwell. A full restraining order against Karen Evans is granted, effective immediately. I closed my eyes as the words washed over me. Karen shouted something, angry, desperate, but the bailiff was already guiding her out. She looked back at Emily, but my granddaughter didn't flinch. She just held Betty's hand. Outside the courthouse, the sky had cleared. Sunlight broke through like a sign. Diane turned to me, smiling for the first time in days. "You did it," she said. I nodded slowly. "We did." Emily came running up, her arms wrapping around me. "You kept your promise," she whispered. "I always will," I said, holding her tight. That night, back at Betty's, the house felt different, lighter, safer. Emily hung her new drawing on the fridge. It was the two of us, standing in front of a small house, with the sun rising behind it. I wrote one final line in my notebook. "They tried to break me, but they only revealed how strong I've become." Moral: evil can wear a familiar face and lie with a soft voice, but truth doesn't need tricks. When you fight with love, courage, and truth, even the darkest lies fall apart.